What's like the weirdest text message you've ever received from Ryan Murphy? I'm sure he sent you some weird stuff out of the blue.
I don't think it's appropriate for me to report what the weirdest text I ever got from Ryan. But like, you'd be surprised how much he likes a GIF. What is it? What's it called?
So do I have to worry about you killing any other gay icons?
I actually don't know. It's entirely possible. But, you know, there's also a lot of gay icons that could kill me, so.
Hi, Sarah. I'm trying not to fangirl too much here. You're...
Do it. Fan it up.
I'm okay. All right, fine. Let's do it. Okay. I saw you in Philadelphia once, actually. You were walking down the street. I think you were filming Glass, and I was like, took everything in me to not just like chase you down and be like, oh my God, I love you. Well, let's get to the task at hand here. Oh, actually, before we start, I have something. And look, actually, we learned, right?
Oh, you can write your name on a peach.
Exactly. Who would do that?
Excuse me. You're eating my peach.
I don't see your name on it.
And who would do that?
Do what?
Put their name on a peach.
Somebody who really wanted it?
No one has ever put their name on a peach.
I've seen it done.
No, you haven't.
What are you going to do about it? What are you, deaf?
No. Just thinking of all the things I'm going to do about it.
Loved it. So amazing. And so I want to know a little bit about your relationship with Ryan Murphy here. So is it safe to assume that you're basically his muse now?
I mean, I think it's such a compliment and I find it very flattering. I don't know what he feels about it. And I don't know if he'd be like, no, Meryl Streep is my muse. And he was working with Meryl Streep now, or had just finished before all this stuff happened. So I was like, I would just always send him jealous texts like, yeah, I know you're working with Meryl Streep. And so maybe now I'm not your muse anymore. And he would just let me get nervous. He would let me get worried about that. It was funny because he'd be like, oh, you don't like that, huh? And I'd be like, well, I mean, I was here first and everything. So I sure have been the lucky recipient of very special parts that he has allowed me to play.
Letting me into this hospital was the best decision you ever made.
I love that. And so speaking of text, what's like the weirdest text message you've ever received from him? I'm sure he sent you some weird stuff out of the blue.
I don't think it's appropriate for me to report what the weirdest text I ever got from Ryan. But like, you'd be surprised how much he likes a GIF. What is it? What's it called?
Yeah. I say GIF. I don't know. I might be on the wrong side.
A Giphy or a Giphy. I don't know what it is. He likes them.
I love that.
Sort of moved away from them of late, but there was a second before I even knew what they were, where he was always sending them, and I'd be like, "What is this?" Judge Judy one with the clock. He hates it. He's like, "Stop it with the Judge Judy and the clock."
Sometimes you just got to move things along, right? And Judge Judy is the best way to make that happen. So let's talk about the scenery and the outfits and all of that. It's gorgeous, absolutely stunning.
I think it's beyond. Ryan, I mean, has such a wonderful eye, and a lot of that is sort of dictated by his particular taste, which is wonderful because he has it in spades. But I think the real thing is that he hires the best of the best. Lou is the most extraordinary costume designer. Judy Becker, who did our sets, just exquisite and all just so fine and really detail-oriented magic that just the minute you walk on the set and you're in the hat and you're in the gloves and the seamed stockings and, you look around and you just don't have to do very much work. It's very good to work with people like that when you're lazy because you don't have to do anything. Show up and you're like, oh, it's 1947. No one's going to tell me that it isn't.
Looking good today, Mildred.
Yeah, exactly. The hair, was that a wig? Safe to assume that was a wig?
It was a wig. That's
okay. I heard sometimes you name your wigs. Did this one get a wig or a wig name?
This one didn't get a name, but I will tell you that what I like to do with my wigs, and I really like to do it with this one, was pull it, like in order to put it on, my hairdresser, Michelle, usually puts it here and then pulls it down in the back. But I would make her take pictures of me all the time with the hairline right here. I just looked like it was just like, and I have a pretty big forehead, as you can see. So it was like right here. And I would just be like, morning, ready. Mildred's ready. I mean, if I could do it quickly, I have a picture here that I could show you. You just wouldn't believe it. It's just really.
So speaking of outfits, was there anything in particular that you wanted to like snatch from wardrobe and take home for yourself?
There was a blouse that I wore in the scene where Cynthia and I are having oysters, and that blouse I loved because it was, obviously I like a big shoulder. It was a shoulder and a silky blouse with a shoulder built in, and it was a real vintage piece, and it was a kind of blush pink, and which I love. And so I wanted that. But all these things were custom made for me. A lot of the outfits were custom made. I could have taken all of it, quite honestly, because I think season 2, it's 1950 something. So some of those clothes won't really be appropriate. So
so there's going to be a season 2. Was that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's so exciting. I would love that. So many of the characters in Ratched sort of kind of walk the line of what's, moral and immoral, and in particular Ratched. Do you see her more as a villain or as a hero of this story? Or
I don't think of her as a villain, and I don't think of her as a hero, really. I think of her as a person who is desperately pursuing absolution. She wants to be freed of this hideous guilt that she's been living with about leaving the most important person in her life behind at a very critical moment. And she's never been able to forgive herself for it. And she's trying to make it right. And in doing so, she subsequently partakes in some pretty suspect behavior.
Fair enough. So you're obviously a big fan of the original source material. And I know that it looked like you did some things to kind of, for fan service. I noticed you had a special key ring in there that was like a gentle nod to Miss Ratched.
Yeah, Louise Fletcher, I was looking for some way that I could either bring some character trait or some physical thing that she did that I could just imagine was part of her, way of being in the world. Everybody has little ways that they move their hair or they do something, but she was so stony and she revealed so little that there was nothing I could really take from the way she walked or the way. So what I did do is I noticed that in the therapy session, she would wear the key ring to the ward up on her bicep. And I remember this one shot, and specifically where she's walking down the hallway from outside the building. It's the only time we ever see her come in. And essentially, you're invited to remember that she is a person outside of this hospital. She sort of enters the hospital or enters the hallway to this giant caged door where she takes out the key ring and lets herself in. And then, it's like she's really the keeper of the keys. She's got, them all locked in there. And so I just tried to get a key ring that looked like that key ring and do with it what she did with it in terms of how she wore it. Maybe no one will notice, but I've talked about it a little bit. So maybe now people will notice, maybe people won't care, but it was something I thought I could do to keep the Louise Fletcher present in my mind.
No, I love that. So I know you're a big Bravo reality fan, Real Housewives in particular. Do you find that watching that helped you with this? Preparing for some of these scathing dialogue and, especially with Ms. Bucket.
That's so funny. I'm going to go with no. But what it did help me with is like when I need to take myself out of that cesspool of a world Ryan Murphy's got me living in, I can drop into a more pleasant cesspool, one that I can sort of zone out and just watch people behave in ways that I find so fascinating.
Love it. So if you were going to give a Housewives intro for Miss Ratched, what would it be?
I got to give credit where credit's due. I just did an interview and he gave me a great one and I'm now going to use it. Okay, so I would turn around and then I would look at the camera and I would say, if looks could kill, you'd be dead.
That's perfect. Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I really appreciate it. It was so much fun.
Thank you, Scott. It's nice to see you.
Appreciate it. Nice to see you as well. Have a great day. Hey, Finn. How's it going?
Hey, how are you?
Thanks for coming to hang out with me and chat about Ratched.
Absolutely.
Very excited. I heard you're a Scotch fan. I brought my Lefroy with me in case you want to get this party started. So it's over there, probably for afterwards. Do you have a go-to for your Scotch?
To be honest, I'm more of an Irish whiskey kind of guy, but I do like Scotch. I like Lefroy and I like Oban too.
Nice. All right. I haven't had that one, so I will have to give it a try. So let's talk Ratched. This obviously isn't your first outing with Ryan Murphy. You've started off with The Normal Heart, and then you moved over to AHS and so on. What keeps you coming back to working with him?
I do it because I know that he's going to continue to challenge me. I have worked with him a bunch of times, but I feel like I've never repeated myself. I think he continues to find things in me that I didn't even know I was capable of. But also I just feel like he's telling stories that are like very much modern, topical, on the pulse of the time stories all the time. Even when he's like this, a character from the 70s who is set in the 40s. Still, if you watch the show, it's sort of about what's going on right now in a lot of ways. So, all those reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you get a lot of creative freedom with your roles now that you've been, working with them so much and you've built up a rapport?
Yeah, there's a sense of like trust built that kind of goes two ways, because I trust him to give me something complicated. And he trusts me, I think, to not have to tell me that much, to sort of be able to like give me a note here and there and like let me run with it.
Absolutely. So I have a little bit of a bone to pick with you, and we're going to go step backwards a little bit. But in AHS, your character Dandy killed Patti LaBelle. So, I mean, come on now.
One. I killed a lot of people, but that was the one that I came to regret.
Exactly. So do I have to worry about you killing any other gay icons? I
actually don't know. It's entirely possible. But, there's also a lot of gay icons that could kill me. So it's a two-way street. Case in point, I killed Matt Bomer in one season of Horror Story, and then he sort of did me in another one. So it all comes full circle.
Yeah. So Patti LaBelle for Ratched too, then.
Yeah, Patty's coming back, I think, to seek the revenge.
Speaking of murder, that opening sequence really set the tone for the show. Pretty safe to assume that you're not squeamish around blood?
Not real blood. I'm pretty safe around real blood, but the stage blood, I get a little sick of how sticky it is. I've worked with a lot of blood now, doing all this stuff, and it never really gets easier. Like I know what to expect. That like you just look forward to that shower at the end of the day so much, but like the feeling of stage blood sticking inside your shirt is never something that I'm that happy to be doing.
So you seem to pull off this kind of like sexy murderer thing off like pretty effortlessly. Is it hard to strike that balance?
I don't think of him as a sexy murderer. There's a certain bloodlust, but it's not a pleasure. It's like he does it out of revenge or out of survival, or there's some reason, and it all comes out of a scar tissue from his awful, tragic childhood. That's what he's still reeling from the get-go. You don't know that for a while in the season, but I knew that playing him. So that's kind of always where it was coming from for me.
I want to be normal.
I mean, a lot of the characters in this show kind of walk that line of moral and immoral, particularly Edmund and Ratched. But do you think that Edmund is more of a hero or a villain or an anti-hero?
I mean, the question you're asking, I think, is sort of the question that the show asks. And it asks a lot about people. I mean, think about Vincent D'Onofrio's character, who's like the governor, from the outside, like the most put together version of authority. And he's like the most, talk about toxic masculinity. Like he is the sort of the least sympathetic person of anyone, And so I think the show is really bringing up questions about who is good, who is bad, who is sane, who is insane, and who makes to make the judgment. That's what I really think about it. Like, who gets to make the call of who is sane and who is not, and is that person totally put together? Like how do we do that as human beings? Like pass judgment on each other it sounds fucking biblical now, but like when no one is very is put together themselves. Everyone has their own demons anyway.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one because you find yourself rooting for these characters at some points, and then at other times you're like, "What? Why would they do such a thing?" It's a weird one to try and swallow, but it definitely makes you think. As an actor, is it more challenging for you, or do you prefer to play the kind of murderer or the victim?
I don't love the violence. I don't love inflicting pain, like physical pain, and like that does actually a thing that I sometimes do take home. And that does sort of wear on me after a while. Receiving pain, is sort of par for the course. That's kind of what you think you're going to do as an actor. But like you can be kind of surprised how much when you inflict pain that can be the thing that can actually stick with you the worst. So I don't like search out these tragic, bloodthirsty people, but they do seem to sometimes find me.
Fair enough. So this final question for you. I imagine that it has to be pretty tense on set. So how do you kind of offset that?
It's tense because there's intense stuff to do, but Ryan's sets are often the most fun sets to be on, especially because so many people know each other, and there's a lot of funny antics to talk about. I don't know that I really have all the time, but there's a moment where I sort of reveal a certain amount of myself in a certain intimate scene with Nurse Dolly. There was one wide shot where we were like fully the whole thing, and it was the only time I think that I really couldn't look someone in the eye because we were both going to crack up. Like it was so close, and we kind of kept laughing. So in that scene, like the wide shot anyway, we're not quite looking in each other's eyes. Like I'm looking like just over here, and she's looking like just over here, so that we could like just get through that shot.
Amazing. Well, Finn, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait for season 2.
Thanks. Me too.
All right. See you later.
Take care.
Thanks, man. Bye.
May I ask why you're headed to Lucia?
It seems like a rather personal question.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Didn't mean to make you uncomfortable.
I didn't say you made me uncomfortable. I said the question was personal.
We had a saying in the Corps, save one life and you're a hero. Save 100 lives, well then you're a nurse.
I know how you feel right now. Told that you're mad when that's what's driving you mad.
I should have never let you into this hospital.
Letting me into this hospital was the best decision you ever made.